I'm told that today's theme is diversity in government. So I've been thinking about why that's so important and about what it means to have a government that is inclusive and represents all Americans. It's not just about making sure that that men and women of every race and religion and background are represented at every level of government. That's critical, and we have to fight for that. It's not just about sending a message to our children that everyone can lead and everyone can serve, although that too is important. The reason diversity is so important is because we have to make sure that we have a government that knows that a problem facing any American is a problem facing all Americans. It's about making sure that our government knows that when there's a Hispanic girl somewhere stuck in a crumbling school who graduates without learning to read or doesn't graduate at all, that isn't just a Hispanic American problem, that is an American problem, and we have to solve it. When Latinos lose their jobs faster than almost anybody else, or work jobs that pay less and come with fewer benefits than almost anybody else, if they're working 2 or 3 jobs and still don't have health insurance and still don't have retirement benefits, that isn't a Hispanic American problem, that's an American problem, and we have to solve that problem. When there are 12 million people in hiding in this country, hundreds of thousands of people crossing our borders illegally each year because they can't make it. They can't support their families. When companies hire undocumented workers to avoid paying overtime or avoid a union, and when we have a government that just engages in symbolic raids but isn't willing to solve this problem comprehensively, and a nursing mother is torn away from her baby during a raid, that is a problem that all of us, black, white, brown, must solve together as one nation, and that's one of the reasons that I'm running for President of the United States of America. A government that doesn't work for some Americans, but a government that works for all Americans. That's the kind of government that I'm talking about. A government that doesn't just represent some, but represents all, including the least of these. A government that reflects our strength as a nation, and that is the strength of our diversity. You know, sometimes people think that somehow there is a conflict between excellence and diversity, and I have to explain to people, no, those things are complementary. The reason you want diversity is because all of us have blind spots. All of us miss certain understandings. And when you have somebody who's worked in a barrio at a grassroots level, working at the highest levels of government, they add to the performance of government. They make government better. That's the kind of government we need. That's the kind of government I've been fighting to build throughout my 20 years of public service. That's why I reached across the aisle in the Senate to fight for comprehensive immigration reform. That's why I brought Democrats and Republicans together in Illinois to put $100 million in tax cuts into the pockets of hardworking families, and expanded health care to 150 children and parents who didn't have health care, and to help end the outrage of Latinas making 57 cents for every dollar that many of their male co-workers make. That's why I worked with LULAC and MALDEF before I was in public office as a civil rights lawyer to register Latino voters and ensure that Hispanics had an equal voice in City Hall. And that's why I first moved to Chicago after college. As some of you know, I turned down more lucrative jobs, and I went to work for a group of churches on the south side and southeast sides of Chicago so I could help turn around neighborhoods that had been devastated when the local steel plants closed. I knew the change in those communities would not come easy, but I also knew that it wouldn't come at all if we didn't bring people together. So I reached out to community leaders, black, brown, white, and built a coalition on issues from failing schools to illegal dumping to unimmunized children. And together we gave job training to the jobless. We helped prevent students from dropping out of school. We taught people to stand up to their government when it wasn't standing up for them. It was one of the most meaningful experiences of my life because it showed me that what holds this country together is that fundamental belief that we all have a stake in each other, that I am my brother's keeper, that I am my sister's keeper. And in this country, we rise and fall together. It's an idea that's familiar to all of you because it's summed up by LULAC's founding creed 75 years ago, all for one and one for all. It's what led a group of immigrants who were tired of being sent to separate schools and arrested for crimes they didn't commit and thrown in jails by juries they couldn't serve on to come together and form this league nearly 80 years ago. It's what led you to take up the cause of a fallen soldier from South Texas who'd returned from fighting fascism in a casket but was denied burial beside the men he fought with and bled with because of the color of his skin. LULAC, you've helped ensure that no one who's worn the proud uniform of the United States of America is denied the rights and respect they deserve. It's what led a local LULAC council to forge a better future for children in Houston by launching a program that not only taught them English and helped ensure they went on to graduate, but served as the basis for the Head Start program that's helped lift so many children out of poverty. It's what led you to make women equal partners in the battle for civil rights long before so many other organizations did the same. It's what's driving you today in your communities to put opportunity, equality, and justice within reach for Latino families. All for one and one for all. That's the idea that's at the heart of LULAC. And that's the idea that's at the heart of the United States of America, and that's what this election is all about, building a future together. And not building it from the top down, but building it from the bottom up, building it from the grassroots. That's what LULAC's about. That's what my campaign is about. It's about all the people who are paying a price because of a broken immigration system. All the communities that are taking immigration enforcement into their own hands. All the neighborhoods that are seeing rising tensions as citizens are pitted against new immigrants. The American people need us to put an end to the petty partisanship that passes for politics in Washington. And they need us to enact comprehensive immigration reform once and for all. We can't wait 20 years from now to do it. We can't wait 10 years from now to do it. We need to do it by the end of my first term as President of the United States of America. Now, I know Senator McCain had a chance to speak to you earlier, and I want to give Senator McCain credit because he used to buck his party on immigration. He fought for comprehensive immigration reform. One of the bills that I co-sponsored, he was the lead. I admired him for it. But when he started running for his party's nomination, he abandoned his courageous stance and said that he wouldn't even support his own legislation if it came up for a vote. Well, for 8 long years, we've had a president who's made all kinds of promises to Latinos on the campaign trail, but failed to live up to them in the White House. And we can't afford that anymore. We need a president who isn't going to walk away from something as important as comprehensive reform when it becomes politically unpopular. Mayor Villaraigosa, he said, you can tell where somebody's going by where they've been. And you can take a look at where I've been. I marched with you in the streets of Chicago to meet our immigration challenge. I fought with you in the Senate for comprehensive immigration reform. I stood in debates during the Democratic primary when it wasn't comfortable and spoke out fiercely on behalf of this issue. And I will make it a top priority in my first year as president, not only because we have an obligation to secure our borders and get control of who comes in and out of our country, not only because we have to crack down on employers who are abusing undocumented immigrants instead of hiring citizens, but because we have to finally bring undocumented immigrants out of the shadows. It is time we did that. Now let's acknowledge, yes, they broke the law. They should have to pay a fine. They should have to learn English. They should go to the back of the line. They shouldn't get citizenship ahead of those who have been waiting patiently. But we also have to put them on a pathway to citizenship. That is how we'll finally fix our broken immigration system and avoid creating second-class servants in our midst. That's not what America's about. This has always been a land of immigrants, and that is what it will continue to be when I'm president of the United States of America. A nation that values laws but also values immigrants. That's what this election is all about. But it's also about the couple I met in North Las Vegas who saved up for decades only to be tricked into buying a home they couldn't afford and now are struggling to raise their 4 daughters at risk of foreclosure. It's about all the Latino families who were the first ones hurt by an economic downturn and the last ones helped by an economic upturn. They can't afford another 4 years of Bush economic policies that Senator McCain is offering, policies that give tax breaks to big corporations and the wealthiest Americans while doing little to nothing for the struggling families who need help most. What they need is for us to restore fairness to our economy. I want to give tax breaks to ordinary working Americans, $1,000 per family to help offset rising gas prices and rising food prices. Put it in the pockets of small business owners who are struggling, but who aspire to the American dream. I want to make sure the tax breaks are going to companies not that ship jobs overseas, but giving them to companies that are investing right here in the United States. I want to make sure that we're solving this housing crisis and giving struggling homeowners relief that they need by greater regulation and creating a fund so that we can help people stay in their homes. And I want to invest in our infrastructure to create new jobs, and particularly in the construction industry that's been so hard hit. We should be rebuilding our roads and our bridges, laying broadband lines so everybody has access to the internet superhighway. Not only will that create jobs now, it will make us competitive in the future. And if people tell you we can't afford it, you just remind them that we're spending $10 to $12 billion a month in Iraq. If we can spend that much money in Iraq, we can spend some of that money right here in El Paso, Texas, in Las Vegas, Nevada, in Northwest Indiana. I don't know about you, but I think it's about time that we solve this healthcare crisis in our country. We have 1 in 3 Latinas who don't have health care. It's not like they're staying at home taking it easy. They're all working and yet still don't have health care. Some of them are working 2, 3 jobs and don't have health care. Somebody has to be their champion. Somebody has to be the champion for the small business owners who are doing everything they can to succeed but are struggling to stay afloat because of the rising costs of everything. They can't afford another 4 years of Bush health care policies that Senator McCain is offering, policies that won't solve our health care crisis but will make you pay taxes on your health care for the very first time ever. Instead, they need us to stand up to the big drug and insurance companies and guarantee health insurance for anyone who needs it and make it affordable for anyone who wants it, and cut costs for business and their workers by picking up the tab for some of the most expensive illnesses and conditions. That's what this election's about, and that's what I'm going to do by the end of my first term as President of the United States of America. Solve the health care crisis, close health care disparities, make sure that everybody gets the services that they need. It's about time that Latino students who are dropping out of school faster than nearly anybody else get some help. The mother in LA who said she felt like the education system wasn't designed for people like her. The children from West Chicago to South Bronx who go to overflowing classes in underfunded schools taught by teachers who aren't getting the support that they need. They can't afford another 4 years of false promises and neglect. They need us to invest in early childhood education to close the achievement gap and make sure every child is prepared when they start school. We need to stop leaving the money behind for No Child Left Behind and recruit an army of new teachers to your communities and make college affordable for anyone who wants to go. And we also have to pass the DREAM Act, because any child in America who's been raised and is learning in American public schools, they should get a chance to go to college too. That's how we'll give every American the skills to compete in our global economy. It's about giving every American a fair shot at the American dream. That's what most Americans are looking for. It's not a lot. Americans don't need government to solve all their problems. You know, the Hispanic community is an aspirational community. You are an example of what has built this country. People coming to this country with very little, but with some big dreams and a big heart and a willingness to work, a willingness to start at the bottom, a willingness to take jobs that folks may not want to take, willing to endure bad pay and bad working conditions because you've got a dream for the next generation. You just want to know that if you put the work in that's required, you'll be able to build a life not just for yourself, but for your children and your grandchildren. That's the essence of the American dream. That's true whether you are black or white or Hispanic or Asian or Native American or Arab American, whether you are young or old. That's the essence of the American dream. Nobody embodies this spirit more than those of you in the Latino community. You know, I was reminded of this a few years ago when I attended a naturalization workshop at St. Pius Church in Pilsen. And nothing moves me more than seeing these naturalization workshops. Luis Gutierrez, one of my great colleagues in Chicago, has been organizing these for years now, along with grassroots organizations. And everybody's given a little American flag as they're sitting there waiting to figure out the process to become naturalized. And I was walking around shaking hands, saying hello to everybody, and listening to their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations, the process that they intended to go through to become a U.S. citizen. And at one point, a young girl, maybe she was 7, maybe she was 8 years old, she came up to me with her parents, and she asked me for her autograph. She said her name was Christina, and she was studying government in school, and so she wanted this autograph so she could take it back to school and let people know that she had met the United States Senator who they had been studying about. And I told her that her parents should be very proud of her because she made such a nice presentation and she was so polite. And Christina turned around and she started translating what I had said to her parents. Little girl. And as I listened to Christina translate my words into Spanish for them, it struck me that for all the noise and anger that so often clouds our discussion about immigration in this country, America has nothing to fear from our newcomers. They come here for the same reason that families have always come here. For the same reason that my own father came here from Kenya so many years ago, in the hope that here in America you can make it if you try. So ultimately, LULAC, the danger to the American way of life is not that we'll be overrun by those who don't look like us or don't yet speak our language. People learn our language, and And part of what makes America beautiful is because there is no such thing as somebody who looks like an American. The danger will come if we fail to recognize the humanity of Christina and her family. If we withhold from them the same opportunities that generations before took for granted. Or more broadly, if we stand idly by as we watch our problems grow, as more and more Americans go without quality jobs or affordable health care or the skills they need to get ahead in the 21st century. If we create two classes of citizens, or two classes of people in this country. America can only prosper if all Americans prosper. It goes back to the idea that's at the heart of this organization, that it's all for one and one for all. That's the idea that applies not just to the Hispanic community, it applies to the American community. That's the idea we need to reclaim in this country. And that's the idea that we can reclaim in this election. But I can't do it on my own. I need your help. This election could well be decided by Latino voters. Every 4 years, some of the closest contests take place in Florida and Colorado and Nevada and New Mexico, and guess what? Texas, well, it hasn't been that close yet, but we're going to try to make it close. Arizona. California's not close either. We're going to stomp them in California. But here's my point. Those states, Florida, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, those are all states with Latino populations. In 2004, 40,000 Latinos who were registered to vote in New Mexico didn't turn out on Election Day. Senator Kerry lost that state by less than 6,000 votes. 6,000 votes. That's a small fraction of the number of Latinos who aren't even registered to vote in New Mexico today. So while I know how powerful a community you are, I also know how powerful you could be on November 4th if you translate your numbers into votes. Now, during the immigration marches back in 2006, we had a saying, today we march, tomorrow we vote. Well, that was the time to march. Now comes the time to vote. And I truly believe that if we can register more Latinos, young and old, men and women, and turn them out to vote in the fall, then not only will we change the political map, not only will I win the presidency, but you will finally have a government that represents all Americans, and then you and I together will bring about the kind of change we've been marching for and fighting for, and lift up all the communities in every corner of the United States of America. That's my goal. That's my promise. I want to work with you, LULAC. I want to be your partner. Thank you very much, and God bless you. God bless America.